allegiance to the flag, States and to the flag of the state, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Now call this Board of Moffett County Commissioners regular meeting to order on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. And Chair would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Chair would move to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
Second.
All in favor?
I would just say before we vote, that we do have a letter to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on there regarding the 10J rule. Just they asked for comments, and we're just letting them know that, hey, you guys are not holding up to the rule. If a wolf kills you, 10J rule says we can kill the wolf. Like that's part of the game. And so we did write a letter in there just for our constituents to know that we've been to more wolf meetings in 6 years than any other meeting that we've probably been as a county. So just for an FYI.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. And I think we could put a copy of that on our social media as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We do have a public hearing at 8:45, but we can move on to staff reports. Oh, sorry, public comment. If there's anybody in the audience who has any public comment that they would like to share with us before we move forward, now is your opportunity.
I can talk about the across the road from our place where they want to subdivide it.
Oh, that'll be.
That'll be in the public or in the hearing. Yeah. Yep. This is anything that's not on the agenda that anybody wants to share. Any general discussion? Okay. Now I will move on to staff reports. Neil and John, think you can get that before my public hearing time? About that.
To be exact.
Yeah. So Office of Development Services, Neil Binder, and Craig Skate Park Association, John Miller.
Good morning.
Morning.
This morning you have in front of you two items. First is the resolution and then an MOU that follows with that resolution. Resolution is stating regarding a previously adopted resolution back in 2025 when we made the decision to support fundraising for a skate park out at Loudy Simpson. And so this just goes further in the fact that Moffett County is intending to pursue some grant funding in partnership with Craig Skate Park Alliance. And one of those grants that we are looking at going after has some rules that needs to be stated what that partnership is. And so that's what this resolution is pertaining to, is really outlining what that partnership is. And then the MOU is the supporting document for that. That grant that we are looking at is the Colorado Health Foundation, and they're very particular about how that application is stated. So I brought John in just for you guys to ask any questions that you may have regarding the partnership. But we as the county will be the fiscal agent of the grant, and then they will be the responsible party as far as the construction management side of everything.
And community.
And community involvement. Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Could I just add a couple
Yep,
things here?
absolutely.
So,
Right.
Max Salazar, county attorney. The other item that's in this packet that's very important is the grant application itself. That also needs to be, I think, voted on and approved for staff to actually apply for that grant. The other part of that grant that's really important is that we have to have $100,000, or we're pledging $100,000 in matching funds. And that's what the resolution is for, is basically setting aside that capital funds, because that was not previously done in the previous resolution that we did, setting aside the land for the skate park. I don't know if you have any more information on where that money is coming from, but
Yeah.
those are the other two items I think that are just really important, is that it's setting aside the money, and then it's also giving us approval to turn in that application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, so the previously, or the $100,000 is coming out of our current budget on the capital line item for Loudy Simpson already. So it's already designated for Loudy Simpson. We're just earmarking it for that park.
And if
As
the
far
grant-
as,
The grant's not awarded, then that money stays in the county and goes into
Correct.
Loudy Simpson's, whatever we're doing.
yep. With all grants, it's always
Matching.
good to have a matching, and by putting that $100,000 towards it, it just makes us more appealing to possibly receive that grant.
What's the total of the grant that you're applying for?
So for this grant, it's 50K from the Colorado Health Foundation. And half of what the 100 that Neil's talking about will be used to match that. So total 100K with CHF's contribution. And what that does is it engages us in a community planning design process. We discovered the Colorado Health Foundation through, they were kind of the lead investor, if you will, in the Hayden Skate Park project. And what's critical about the Colorado Health Foundation is that accessing, well, you can get to bigger implementation dollars. So the Hayden Skate Park was a $1.2 million project. 500,000 of that came from the Colorado Health Foundation. The other 500,000 came from GOCO. To access the 500,000 potentially in implementation dollars from the Colorado Health Foundation, you have to engage with them at the planning design process. And so that's why we're talking to them first, and then why that community engagement is such a critical piece to then the follow-on of the possibility for the bigger implementation dollars. So, you know, with our narrative and the perspective that we're bringing to the table, we believe that we have a compelling case for, you know, if Hayden could raise, you know, $1 million with these two funders, that'll be, you know, a pretty good place for us to start. And of course, we have a vision for a larger investment. You know, we have 5 times, 6 times the population that Hayden did, and a lot of other demographics that support what the Colorado Health Foundation actually really cares about, which is poverty and marginalized citizens and, you know, things like that. So we think we have a good chance to be competitive for this grant, and appreciate all the work that Neil and Roy and Max have put into in our partnership and helping us get this structured to be competitive for this grant.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so in that MOU, that 50,000 is spelled out.
I just wanted it on the public record for
Yeah.
folks that aren't reading the packet.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I think the intention for that other 50K was to leave some match funding
Yeah.
for when we're applying for bigger grant dollars.
Sure. Any other questions for Neil or John?
No.
Okay.
We need three motions, is that what I understand?
Yeah.
See if he's back in the game yet.
You got it?
What's that? Oh, I can do it. Yeah, you betcha. Chair, make a motion to approve resolution 2026-72, resolution authorizing the commitment of capital funds for the development of a wheel park at Loudy Simpson Park.
Second?
Okay. Motion and a second on resolution 2026-72. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the memo of understanding regarding the Colorado Health Foundation grant.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
And if I heard this right, I'll make a motion to approve the staff to go forward with the grant application.
Second.
thanks. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
And I bet we probably have time to do that. So we had moved to table this until this meeting. And so I would entertain a motion to get it back on the table to discuss.
You want to bring it to the table and then table it?
Yes. Well,
Um,
yeah.
So I will make a motion to put Road and Bridge Department bid recommendation back on the table.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then I'm,
Be tabled again, or can it just be like discussed
but it needs to come back one way or the other.
but they can bring it back to our attention. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to table it indefinitely. We can discuss and come to no motion and it drops until they bring it back.
Let it die for no motion.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. I think it's important for people that were here last week or last meeting to know that we tabled it because there was some discrepancies in, like, do we go with Cat or John Deere? And we have everything in Cat, and Cat was a little bit more. But talking to Dan Miller, he went back to Cat and they've had discussions, and so they're still working on that process. We don't have enough information to, he was doing his due diligence and trying to stay under budget, but I don't understand switching. If you got 10 Cats to go to one John Deere, it just doesn't make any sense to me, whether you save $30,000 or not. That doesn't, I mean, you stick with what you got, all the parts and all that stuff, but he's gathering more information for that.
Yeah. But our motion at the last meeting was specifically to table for this meeting. So I think it's appropriate to bring it back and then can die for lack of movement, and he can bring it back when he's more prepared. So to make that official, the chair would entertain a motion to address the bid recommendation for the motor grader. Hearing no motion, item dies. And now we will move on to our public hearing. Let the record show that today's posted public hearing regarding E2602 Schwollert Lamb exemption. Letters were sent to adjacent landowners. Information was posted on the county website. Legal ads were run 14 days prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Once the public hearing's been declared open, I'll ask Candace Miller, Planning and Zoning Coordinator, to present the BOCC the request as submitted. Once the presentation is complete, the commissioners may ask questions or make comments. I will then ask the audience if there's anyone who wants to testify either for or against. Any citizen of Moffett County may testify once the public hearing has been declared and all information has been presented. For those who want to testify, you'll be asked to approach the commissioners, state your name for the record, and you'll be given 3 minutes to present your testimony either for or against. Erin Miller will be the timekeeper today, and she will notify the BOCC and the speaker that 20 seconds remain before your time is up. No decision will be made during the public hearing. This is an opportunity for any of you to provide testimony in favor of or in opposition of the proposed request. The commissioners have the option of asking questions or answering questions related to the topic during the hearing process. Once all testimony has been heard and the public hearing will be declared closed, and we will go back to regular session. I will then refer back to the board for discussion and a decision on said proposal. With that, I will declare the public hearing open, and Candace Miller.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So I have provided to you an application summary for E2602. The Planning Board reviewed said application at our June 3rd meeting. The board voted 3-0 to recommend approval of that exemption application. It is an exemption application, basically taking the 37.878 acre parcel. The exemption will create a 13 acre parcel and a 24.878 acre parcel. Both parcels have access off of County Road 7. I did hear back from DWR in regard to the well situation. There is a well on parcel A. Parcel B will be able to obtain a well permit for household use only, just an exempt well permit. That information is in my packet if you'd like to see it, and was provided to the applicant as well. And I don't think there was no other discussion items on that. And I did not hear from, personally hear from any adjacents. I know that the applicant reached out to me. There was a property to the south that had some questions for him. I provided the plat to him to share, to explain how, where the property lines lie with this exemption. And then I didn't hear anything. So today I present this to you to consider approval.
Okay, any questions for Candace? Any questions for Candace?
And I guess I should add that the applicant, there's no intent in when we send out the notification of exemption of subdivision regulations, they intend on keeping the majority of that parcel. So there is no development to happen on that parcel that I'm aware of, just so you know.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will now open it for the public. If anyone would like to testify for or against, now is your opportunity. Come up and state your name for the record.
Well, now, it seems to me that this is already a done deal because they have the 13 acres for sale right now with the house. So are we wasting our time here?
Well, at this point, if they were to sell, they would have to sell the entire property because they haven't been
Well,
given
that's what I'm-
exemption.
That's what I'm thinking. And I had a question on the water, because the reason we bought that was because it had good water to start with. There's people both sides of us haul water, and I wouldn't do that for nothing. And you know that our place is subdivided, but that was done clear back in the late 70s or 80s. There's two houses there. It was a father and son, and that's what it is now with one well. We share a well. So it's be hard to sell it anyway. The property line, when they subdivided ours, runs through the barn. So, I mean, it's kind of a messed up deal. I had talked to Jerry Hoberg years ago about redoing it, but we're not planning on leaving. They don't understand if they do put a house over there in that bowl across the road from our place. 2 years ago, they weren't here. There was 12, 15 feet of snow, and they're not going to be in that thing in the wintertime. If they go up on the hill, they got a steep hill to go up for a drive. If we get a southwest wind. So I just want to know if it was going to stay pasture land or if they were planning to build. And if they're planning to build, I'm against it.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
What's your name?
Cruzy. I live right straight across North Street.
Oh, across the street, okay.
Yeah,
I just
nobody's
wanted-
ever said
that's
a
our
word till we got this.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hello. My name's Terry Mansfield and I have the property at 6303 County Road 7, which is immediately south of their line that they're subdividing. I didn't come to an earlier thing, so I do not fully understand what their intentions is for splitting up that property, which is immediately next to mine. I originally bought 35 acres. I sold to the south 10 acres a few years ago. So my property is 25 acres.
You said they didn't, at this point, hadn't had him plans.
I believe, looking to purchase another property adjacent and essentially have keep the larger parcel as grazing and then buy another parcel. So that they had no intention, and of course, I can't speak for what the future holds. You know, if they sell that off later down the road and somebody else does something with it, the minimum acreage in ag is 5 acres. So essentially somebody could subdivide that down into 5 acre parcels. But this particular landowner's intention was to keep the majority of that exemption, so that 24.87 acres, and buy an adjacent property. And I don't know if they intend on joining the parcels and creating one, or if they just will have 2 parcels, but one would be grazing. They did not express any interest in any development on that piece to keep that, so.
I thought the thing was you could only subdivide one time.
So this is an exemption from subdivision regulations. So you can do a one-time exemption. And then if somebody were to come in and buy, say, parcel B down the road and do a major subdivision, a major would be anything over 4 lots. And that's speculative. I'm not saying that's happening. Their intent was that they're keeping that. They liked their property. They wanted to have more of it. But they wanted a different house set up out there. Yeah, so.
The way I see it though, if people want to live on top of each other, move to town.
Exactly.
So your question was, you didn't know what their,
What rights do I have having that split up and with the possibility of a house being put there versus pasture? Because I have a barn and pasture immediately adjacent to that property.
I think you can state your concerns and if you're
I'm
really,
sorry, I have hearing aids and hard of hearing.
that's okay, I'll yell at you. I think if your concern is what they're planning to do, again, she can't address what they might do in the future. Their plan at this point is not to do anything with the property other than purchase adjacent property to expand what they own, and leave that for grazing. Your rights would be to purchase it if you want to keep it exactly as it is.
My right is what?
You would be able to purchase it if you wanted to keep it exactly as it is.
Well, being as how I don't have the income to do that, I'm kind of at the mercy of whatever the laws are in the county.
Sure.
So I'm just expressing my dissatisfaction of having possibly a house right there. I don't think they'd want to look at my barn, but
Okay, thank you.
But I ask again, if that was subdivided again, like she said, in 5 acre plots, what do they do for water then?
Well, according to Colorado rules now, that with the river being appropriated, you can't even drill a well yet if you have less than 35 acres. So that'd be hauling water. I mean, That's the thing. We can't tell somebody you can't tell you what to do with your land, can't tell them, but at the same time, we can give them all these things to say, this is going to be difficult if you do this, but you know, there's a huge portion of Moffett County that hauls water. I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, but a lot of people haul water man, it's crazy. Yeah, right.
Well, I apologize for not immediately contacting my neighbors and to inquire what their plans were or are. So I don't know what will happen for this process.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to testify for or against? Okay, hearing none, I will close the hearing and refer back to Candace or my fellow commissioners. Do you have anything? Any other questions?
Not really. There's no house on either one of these right now, or
There
there
is
is
on
on
the
the
13
24,
acre.
on the 13 acres, there's a house.
And then in regard to, the 5 acres and the hauling water. So yes, this over appropriation makes it very difficult in some circumstances that they would consider an exempt well for household use only. That's not every case. On a major subdivision, it's not likely that they would permit any wells, or highly unlikely. Of course, I can't speak on behalf of DWR, but that is something that, the county dictated many, 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 many years ago, that the ag could be as little as 5 acres. So it does, we have landowners who it is within their right to divide down to that small of acreage, given they have road access and, those types of things. There's a lot, the stipulations for subdividing get a lot more stringent when you get into those major subdivisions.
Right.
And obviously, we're in a much different situation with water today than we were when those regulations were drafted. So it makes it a little less appealing.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But and to your point, a lot of people are, I hear from a lot of people who have wells and don't use them because the water is so bad. And then some that have them are great. And I understand wanting to protect to ensure that there's no material injury, but DWR does assess that because they are conferred with on every thing that comes through this office. So.
Yeah. I think for me, it still goes, this is the most difficult thing when we have to make these decisions, for the simple fact that I don't want someone telling me what I can do, I can do with my property, and I don't like to tell somebody what to do with their property. At the same time, when does your property rights affect my property rights? So there's like this whole battle here that I think makes it tough. Here, they're not dividing it into 5 acres. They have a 24 and a 13, right? I mean, we just heard from someone that went from 35 to 10.
Right.
Or, that sold 10 off. So, I mean, what's worse, right? 13 or
Right.
10, right? So I guess it's just one of those, so that's the
Yeah,
hard.
and
that's the-
unfortunately for the planning office, we can't possibly know what the future plans would be for the individual who owns that, whether they're going to build. If they do, obviously, there's setbacks, there's building requirements, working with the building department. And then, if they decide 15 years down the road that, actually that's just too much land, we're going to sell that off. And I have no way of knowing what it could possibly be. And of course, people, they do want to move out of town because they're sick of being on top of people, but it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But if you put 4 houses right there, or 5 houses, whatever they're gonna subdivide it, you've already said that it could be done. Is it gonna be written in there they can't do that?
Nope.
No, but they would have to come and get approval. Don, they would have to come and get approval to do that. It's not, they can't just subdivide it on their own. They got to go through this process all over again to subdivide it. And there'll be more strict rules on that. So you would have that opportunity then. This is just talking about those 2 parcels. That's it.
We've been out there 36 years. And there's already 7 other places there. There's one above you, the cabin, the Jerry, and then the piece you sold, two across the road from what Jerry Burton built. The trailer house on the corner was put there by Joe Stark.
Unfortunately,
Down the road, I mean,
and unfortunately, the only way to control your neighbors is to buy their property, right? The further you want to be away from people, the more you have to buy around you. So unfortunately. But if they've met all the requirements of our planning and zoning requests, it's kind of hard to tell them they can't do as well. So I have no further questions for you.
Okay.
And I will refer to my fellow commissioners.
Okay, Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve E-26-02 exemption.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All right. And that will conclude our business. Oh, no, we have a presentation. Sorry.
Forgot you.
Not so much. Colorado Agrivoltaic Learning Center, Allison Jackson and assistant. If you guys want to come up. Good morning.
Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name's Liz Voss. I'm the Program Manager with the Colorado Agrivoltaic Learning Center. I'm Allison Jackson. I'm the Education and Policy Manager for the Colorado Agrivoltaic Learning Center. So we're the education and policy-oriented nonprofit that's based at Jack's Solar Garden. We're in Longmont, Colorado. We were established in 2020, and we conduct outreach and education around the benefits and opportunities for agrivoltaics. So this is the coupling of agriculture within solar arrays. And our mission is to inspire our community to consider better land stewardship within our solar arrays. Next slide, please. So first, to set a bit of the context, solar development's not new in Colorado. We currently have 5.5 gigawatts of installed solar capacity, and it is providing huge economic value to Colorado already. And the Department of Energy estimates it could take another 10 million acres of solar to meet our energy needs. And we do hear that some communities are really beginning to feel this burden. Next slide, please. So according to the American Farmland Trust, as much as 80% of that new solar could be installed on farmland. And that's not the only pressure that's impacting our Colorado communities. We're seeing impact on working lands and agricultural lands from urban encroachment and development. And again, the American Farmland Trust estimates that anywhere between 250 to 500,000 acres of farmland could be converted because of all of these combined development pressures, including solar. So next slide, please. Thank you. So regarding that loss of farmland to solar development, we're here today to talk about a potential solution. And that solution is agrivoltaics, which is really the combination and integration of agriculture or land stewardship activities within solar arrays. Specifically, it's with the agriculture making beneficial use of the microclimates, so that shade being provided from the solar panels. So this image shows some different configurations. The top row is more of our standard solar configurations, integrating crop agriculture, animals, and even ecosystem services like pollinator habitat. And then the bottom row showcases some different configurations. So there's vertical bifacials to integrate larger machinery, or raising the panels and spacing them out to integrate different types of crops or animals. And then this allows more light to come through where you space them out more. Next slide, please. So research has already demonstrated some tangible benefits for crops, for people, and for animals. A site in Arizona demonstrated they could cut irrigation water needs by 50% while producing the same yields of tomatoes and peppers. At Jack's Solar Garden, we've seen an increase in the growth of our leafy greens, thanks to that partial shade created by the solar panels. And Colorado, as we know, is not a light limited state, it is a water limited state. And so this partial shade really helps to keep the moisture in the ground for longer and does cut irrigation requirements. And it also reduces the heat stress on our crops and reduces heat-related illnesses that some of our livestock might suffer from. And our farmers love the shade as well. Being able to have access to shade in the hottest part of the day has been a real benefit to farmers' well-being and health throughout the day at Jack's Solar Garden. And finally, agrivoltaics can offer increased economic opportunities by diversifying income streams from solar land leasing while still making use of the land for agriculture within that array. And this also helps to support the agricultural legacies for future generations. Next slide, please. So this is Jack's Solar Garden in Longmont, Colorado. It's a 1.2 megawatt single access tracking system. It's a fully subscribed community solar garden. We provide enough power for about 300 homes in the area. This was constructed on around 5 acres. And the only design change that we made from what was a hay farm was to elevate the panels from the traditional 4 feet to around 6 to 8 feet tall. So this is done with research in mind to see how it could be beneficial for taller people, animals, plants. Our executive director and owner of the farm is 6 feet tall. And so having him be able to walk within the panels has been really beneficial. So this is a demonstration site, and we use it as a community engagement tool to connect people to the concept and idea of what agrivoltaics can really mean. So we grow anything from market garden vegetables to a large part of our site is unirrigated grassland. And we've had animals out on site also. I'll show you some pictures in just a minute. So we host tours and events at the site. We've probably had around 8,000 people visit the site since we opened in 2020. And those numbers keep increasing. And so we just like to showcase what's possible within solar arrays. Next slide, please. Last year, we had a flock of around 14 sheep out on site. They were underneath the panels grazing, and as you can see, they're mostly in these nice lines of shade. Next slide, please. And actually, over 100,000 of acres of solar array in the United States are actually grazed by sheep. They're more efficient than lawnmowers a lot of the time. Next slide, please. But we are also a cattle state, and we believe that cattle can be successfully integrated into solar arrays. So we've had red Angus and dairy cows out on site a number of times, and each time we see them arrive on site, put their head down in that forage, eat, and then find the shade and lie down. Next slide, please. There's a video. Hopefully this will play. I don't think it will. What we would see here in this video is a cow scratching its neck against the steel I-beams. And there's a lot of concern around how cattle will interact with solar arrays. We can share this video with anybody who's interested in seeing it afterwards. The steel I-beam doesn't move. For every foot above ground is a foot of steel below ground. It's built to withstand hurricane force winds. We're on the Front Range in Colorado. We get some big winds. And so a cattle really doesn't have anything, it doesn't come up against that solar array's integrity. Next slide, please. Okay. Do you want to go? Sure.
And so in order to use that land underneath of the solar panels, we have 3 principles that we use for agrivoltaics, or changes that you need to make within that. And so the first one is increase the accessibility. And so we did that at Jack's Solar Garden by lifting those panels up higher. Other people are investigating spacing those rows of panels out further to allow for greater, larger equipment or greater implements behind tractors. Other things you might want to worry about is sometimes there are drive lines running through the solar array that would prevent people from transversing all the way across. So minimizing those barriers as much as possible is important to allow for that agriculture to remain viable underneath. Can you go to the next slide? Next thing that you want to think about when you're integrating agriculture into solar arrays is wire management. And so those top pictures are kind of what you see for standard wire management, where you'll see some wires closer to the ground, you'll see some loops and some droopy wires. And so if you're going to have animals out in that site, if you're going to have people working regularly, you want to minimize those loops and droops. So keeping your wire management as high, tight, and neat as possible is really important. At Jack Solar Garden, we have a mesh that protects any of our animals or people from accidentally pulling a wire and getting electrocuted. Other things that might be of interest is to exclude animals from areas that would be the most dangerous as well. Next slide. And then this is really important during the construction of the solar array, is to be mindful of soil health and soil compaction and degradation. So minimizing grading. So that's when you scrape the soil off and make the land completely flat in order to make the installation a little bit faster. But that really, in our arid environment here in Colorado, sets back those soils by decades or even longer. So now we have tracking systems that can handle some slope with it. So minimizing grading as much as possible, and then minimizing the tracks that those large pieces of equipment have to do across the agricultural area. And thinking about the vegetation that's already there. So our farm was previously a hay farm. So we had a nice vegetative mat already. So it was seeded with perennial grasses that come up, and it was able to withstand a lot of that construction traffic without a lot of damage. Next slide. And so why we're here today is we wanted to talk about how counties can think about agrivoltaics inside of their land use code. So I spent a year working with some collaborators at the National Renewable Energy Lab looking at solar regulations across Colorado. And so that's that report that we did back in 2024, looking at all those solar regulations. We're also seeing that counties are struggling with regulating and permitting these types of facilities. So over the past few years, we've had 10 different counties across the Western Slope go through moratoria for solar, for battery and energy storage, other types of technologies that counties need help with how to permit and regulate. So next slide, please. So after that report with the National Renewable Energy Lab, we spent another year working on creating this document we call our land use code guidance for deploying agrivoltaics in Colorado. And so this is really a resource for counties to get some idea of how to think about agrivoltaics and how they can add that to their land use code. So the first thing we want to talk about is adding a definition for agrivoltaics. And so the definition is typically just ag plus photovoltaics in the same space, but we think that in order for it to be a robust project, that it really needs to be planned, designed, and built with agriculture in mind. And so thinking through that through all the phases of planning and developing for agrivoltaics. That's a start, is maybe adding a definition to the land use code. Can you go to the next slide, please? We want to make sure those definitions are tight, because we also think that adding an incentive for agrivoltaics would be really helpful. So ways that we can think about incentives inside of land use codes is so streamlining the permitting pathway for these type of facilities would allow these things to be built quicker, which is time is money for these solar developers. And so a lot of times these timelines can be 5 to 6 years to build these facilities. So if it were truly maintaining that ag production underneath, maybe it could have a more streamlined pathway for permitting. Other things, so waiving height restrictions is what we've seen in other counties. We've also seen counties restricting solar on agriculturally zoned land, so allowing that to be waived for truly agrivoltaic projects would also be an incentive. Next slide, please. And so this just gives some idea of how to regulate these and puts the onus on the applicant to demonstrate to the county that they are thinking about agriculture throughout the process. And so providing narratives around how the panel height matches what kind of agriculture will go under there, how they're going to manage water, how they're going to manage wires, and then that they do already have some sort of agricultural leasee that lined up to take over the management of that property. Are all things that would demonstrate that they have a robust agrivoltaic project. Next slide. And then there's also just the design standards that you see in typical land use code. So talking about setbacks, height restrictions, visual impacts, decommissioning, and stormwater management. So there's also sections in that resource to provide some guidance for agrivoltaics. Next slide. And then the last part of it is some supplemental codes. We know that not every county in Colorado is the same and that they have different priorities and goals. So we looked at the county level master plans and comprehensive plans across Colorado to see what those goals were. And so a lot of counties have goals around preservation of ag land, but they also really want to protect their rural character and scenic quality. So we have some supplemental codes for conservation solar, which is to protect natural resources, and also visual impacts mitigation for distinct view sheds. So those are other options inside that code. Next slide. That's not our only resource. We also have resources for landowners that are looking to add solar to their property, as well as how to design solar for agriculture in mind. So those are also resources on our website. And I think that's our last slide, or there might be one more. And just, yeah, we're open for questions now.
Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I've seen a couple
this-
presentations on this.
Huh?
I've seen a couple presentations on this type of stuff, yeah.
We just know you don't have pictures of goats because goats will eat the wires.
We have
Well,
recent-
We've heard of someone in New Mexico that actually has goats, and so we are excited to learn more.
See how that goes.
Right.
This, you called it Jack's Solar Garden? And on that, this what you were showing us, how many acres was that?
It's a 5-acre plot of land.
5 acres?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the total farm?
It's a 24-acre parcel, but only 5 acres was put into solar. The other 2 are still in hay production. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time this
Thank
morning.
you.
We appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity to present to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are finished with business and adjourned at 9:18.
Well, that's go past 8.